recording the interview of William Duffy. This interview is being conducted by Katie Bradshaw from the Wright State University Veteran Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Wright State University in the Veterans and Military Center. It is 12 o'clock p.m. on February 25th, 2020. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And for the purpose of this interview, I understand you want to go by Bill?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, Bill, would you like to tell us when and where you were born?
Yes, I was born in Springfield, Ohio on September 29th, 1946.
All right, so still close to home.
Close to home. We moved to Dayton when my dad changed jobs in 1959.
Okay, so you were in school. How was that move for you?
Well, it was going into my 8th grade year, so a little strange, but we all adapt.
Okay, what was your dad doing that brought you to Dayton?
He was parts manager for a jobber store, made auto parts. He was the assistant manager for some time, and he went back and forth between Springfield and Dayton. When he took the manager's position, they wanted him in town.
Okay.
So
Did
off
you?
we went,
Yeah, so you followed his career. That's what happens, huh?
pretty much.
How many children were in your family?
There were 3 of us, all boys. I'm the oldest.
So your mother was busy.
She was a stay-at-home mom. She never drove. So,
But she kept you guys in line, huh?
oh yeah, yeah. She ran the household.
Good, good. Growing up, what kind of activities did you enjoy, or hobbies or sports?
I played basketball and baseball when I was in grade school. Intramural once I got to high school, but I enjoyed those 2 sports especially.
Good. Growing up, were you really close with your brothers?
Yes, my one brother is only 15 months younger. The second brother is 6 years different, so there was a little bit more, but my brother John and I were pretty close, being that close in age.
I imagine. Was he into sports as well?
Oh yeah, he did. He was the football player.
Okay.
Then of course he did play basketball and baseball also.
And then little brother probably wanted to follow you guys around a lot, huh?
Yeah, but he never was the sports guy. He was more the student.
Okay. That's a good mix.
Oh yeah.
So growing up, did you consider joining the military, or how did it come that decision was made?
Well, of course, I went to Chaminade High School in Dayton, and beginning with our junior year, anybody who offered to come in and administer a test, we took them. The more tests you take, the better you are. Well, the Air Force came in. So a lot of us took the Air Force entrance exam, whatever you want to call it, and thought nothing else of it until I dropped out of college, and I got not a draft notice, but a notice to go for physical. And I said, no, I'm not going to the Army. So I went down and saw the Air Force recruiter.
Okay, you took a little bit of control of that direction.
I couldn't see myself trauma through the mud carrying a rifle.
Yeah. So when you went to meet with the Air Force recruiter, how did your family feel about that?
I don't know if we ever really talked about it. I mean, it was a choice that I made, and I was going to go in the military one way or the other, especially at that time, 1966. I mean, we were heavy into Vietnam.
So everybody's sons pretty much were in the same.
Everybody went.
Yeah. So when you went and met with the Air Force recruiter, how did that go?
Very well. Of course, I placed very well on the test, and the only thing he told me was, if you get a draft notice, call me right away. So
I imagine at the time the Air Force was kind of swamped by people trying to avoid other branches, like yourself, because I've heard that story.
Probably so, but I mean, they must have been in dire need of people, especially in some career fields, because they rushed us through basic training. We were only there for 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, they they got you in a uniform and taught you how to march straight, and then sent you to tech school.
That was good enough, huh?
Oh yeah,
So where did you go to tech school then?
Chanute Air Force Base, Illinois, which was not too far away from Champaign. The little town outside the base was Rantoul. So I was there from first part of April '66 until August of '66.
And your tech school training was for?
Aircraft maintenance, jet over 2. And the aircraft that we actually had on site was a B-52. But we were all over the airplane. Of course, we had a lot of classroom instruction also.
Were you excited about that career choice? Did you choose it or did they kind of give that to you?
They told me where to go.
Okay. Did you enjoy the training when you were going through
absolutely. Absolutely. I did very well.
Good. So it was a good match for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good. So when you finished up tech school, where did you go from there?
I went to Columbus, Ohio, to Lockwood Air Force Base, to the 301st Air Refueling Wing, and I was assigned to the Organizational Maintenance Squadron. We had ownership of the airplanes, KC-135s. So basically, we launched them, refueled them when they came back, inspected them. If they went off base, if they went away TDY someplace, we went with it.
Wow. So crew chiefs work a lot of long, hard hours, from my experience.
Sometimes they could be very long and very tiring, but then at other times it was almost like a 40-hour-a-week job.
Okay, so there's some balance.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, what kind of places would you go TDY with the plane?
Well, the first place I ever went was Goose Bay, Labrador. I was there for 35 days as a snow augmentee. We were there to make sure that if it snowed while we were there January. And I think the whole time we were there, the 35 days, I think it only snowed 3 times.
Wow.
But we were to make sure that the airplanes were snow-free and ready to fly.
Sounds like you got lucky because I imagine they get a lot of snow there in January.
It must have started earlier because when we got there, I mean, any snow that came, they had big snow throwers, and I mean, you wouldn't believe the height of the walls where they took snow and blew it up.
Wow.
But we didn't have much. It was really strange.
You got lucky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you have some fun adventures while you were there, kind of being away from home and a young working man?
It was pretty much routine. I mean, when we weren't out on the flight line, then it was a matter of ping pong, pool, playing cards, reading. Of course, there was a movie every night. I mean, it was pretty routine, kind of dull sometimes.
Okay. Now, you were, by this point, for sure, you were into your career, meeting people from all over the country.
Right.
How was that for you?
Very interesting. I mean, met all kind of different people. I mean, one of the guys that, I met when I got to Lockbourne, we went together when we went to Goose Bay that time, and we got to be pretty good friends. Matter of fact, he was in my wedding.
Oh, that's good.
So,
do you still stay in contact with him?
We lost contact after about 6 or 7 years after we got out. He was in Washington, D.C., and I was in Dayton.
Yeah, and that was the world before the technology we have now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So where did your career take you from that point?
As far as the Air Force?
Yeah, so at that point you were in Labrador.
For 35 days, came back. Of course, it was routine maintenance, day in, day out. And of course, I made E4 in 2 years' time. And So the farther you went, the more schooling you got, the more responsibilities you had. So we were training new people coming in all the time.
So you were doing very well to move that quickly.
Yes. I got commendations from both of my schools as an outstanding student, which doesn't hurt your record at all.
Very good. So then I imagine you started mentoring and training younger airmen coming in.
Yes,
Did you enjoy that role as in leadership?
absolutely. It's interesting to bring somebody along and help them out.
Good. So then you're going through your career. Okay, so you're continuing to go to Labrador,
Yes.
kind of back and forth. For how long was that going on?
That went on for the whole time that I was at Lockbourne at one time or another. I mean, it wasn't necessarily every single month, but if you were there a week on, week off for 4 weeks, then you might not go again for 2 or 3 months. But then there was always someplace else. I mean, we went to Alaska for 7, 10 days. We were in Spain and England for a couple of weeks. Different missions. There was always a reason for you to go. If you weren't away from home, then you were on alert at the home base, which was during the summertime. It was a week on, a week off from the facility, but during the wintertime when we had to heat water on the airplane, the engines were water augmented thrust. So when the temperature dropped down so far, you had to keep the water warm. So you were up in the middle of the night, sitting out in the truck, watching the airplane and heating water. At that time, you were 2 days on, 2 days off. We always switched it on Friday. So if you got off on Friday morning, then you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then Monday you go back to your regular work with the squadron. But then the following Friday you'd end up going back.
Okay, so your schedule was constantly changing.
Yes.
Did you enjoy the change, or was that a challenge?
I didn't mind. I don't think my wife appreciated it. She spent a lot of time alone with our son.
So now that you mentioned your wife, where did you meet your wife?
I met her at a teen club dance in Fairborn, Ohio. Right, it was in my junior year. She was a sophomore. We didn't go to the same school. She went to Carroll, which was boys and girls. And the school I went to, Chaminade, was strictly all boys. But one of the guys that we knew invited us out to Fairborn to go to the dance, and that's where I met her.
So then did she give you her phone number, or how did you stay in contact with her after meeting her?
She was in a study hall with my brother, and he brought a note home one day. So we started dating from that point. We dated all the way through my senior year and hers. And then when I went to UD to college, we dated for a while, but then something happened and we broke up. But then about 6 months later, we got back together, and about 4 months later, we got married.
So by the time you left for basic training, were you married already?
No, I was at Lockbourne. I was at my permanent station by the time we got married.
Okay. So she was marrying into the military life then.
Mm-hmm.
How did she feel about that?
Well, she had an idea of what it was like. She had an uncle who was a colonel in the Air Force. Her dad was, of course, in the I don't know if it was Air Force at that time, Army Air Corps probably, in World War II. So she had an idea of what military was like, but I don't think she was quite ready for all the time that I was gone.
Yeah, being a crew chief.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of time away. So you get married then, and she comes to join you. When does your son join your family then?
We got married in November of '66. He was born in September of '67. So he came real quick.
Right away.
I like to tell people that I was married all my life and a father one day less.
Just about, right?
Just about.
Well, that's an exciting surprise or exciting event.
Right.
Becoming a father and
Yeah, it was a whole lot different then. I mean, of course, we had the base hospital, and they kept her. Well, they kept all the new mothers 7 days. And the only visitors they were allowed to have was their spouse. And nowadays, if you're in the hospital 2 days after giving birth, it's a long time. So it was different then.
that is different. That probably allowed the mothers more time to recover.
Oh yeah, yeah. But she didn't labor very long. They got her in, checked her in. Doctor came out and said, "Well, let's go get a cup of coffee." And before we could get out of the area, somebody came and got him and said, "You don't have time." So it was pretty quick and easy.
So that's when your son was born.
Right.
Do you have more children or just the one?
I have two others. I have a daughter who's the middle child and a son who's the third.
Okay, were they all born pretty close together?
No, Christine was born, because David was born in 67, Chris was born in 70, and Adam was born in 74.
Okay,
So,
a couple years apart.
yeah, well, it worked out real well because when they got to high school, one went in. When they got out, the next one started. So that made it easy on the pocketbook paying tuition.
Right. Especially heading off to their young adult lives, whether it was college or work, and
Right.
not doing it all at once. Well, good. So then, time came for your first deployment at some point, right after your son was born. Was Thailand an official deployment?
Yes, but that was later on in my career. Matter of fact, that was the last deployment I had when I was in the service.
Okay, what was your first deployment in the service?
Goose Bay, Labrador, which came 30 days after I got married, and I was gone for 35 days. And then after that, it was pretty routine as to every couple of months I'd be gone someplace.
So, other than Goose Bay, what was, and you mentioned Spain, Germany, is that correct?
Spain and England.
England.
And that was at the same time. We were back and forth.
Okay.
I can't remember, don't know exactly why we were there, but we were there for about 2 weeks.
What did you think of being in another culture?
It was eye-opening. Of course, we didn't have much time to, get into town. We went into Oxford one night, but other than that, we pretty well stayed around the base.
It was a short deployment.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd say Thailand was the longest I was ever gone at one time.
What year did you go to Thailand?
69.
Okay. Because those were the photos that you shared that we'll add to your video.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find out that you would be going to Thailand?
When the team leader came in and said, "You're going," and we got our orders, and I found out who the rest of my ground crew would be and when we were leaving, and that's it. I mean, they don't ask you if you want to go; they tell you you're going to go.
Yeah.
And they hand you your orders.
Was your wife pregnant with your second by that time?
No, our second wasn't born until I was out.
Okay. So you get told that you're going to be going to Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
How long was that deployment scheduled to be for?
90 days.
90 days.
We were there from the middle of June of 69 till the middle of September 69.
Was that the longest you'd been away from home or from your wife?
At any one time, yes.
Yeah. How did she feel about that news?
She wasn't overly excited, but by that time she was driving, and being as close as we were to home, she went back and forth. She didn't stay, with her parents or my parents for any prolonged period of time, but she didn't stay up in Columbus by herself real long either. She went back and forth. She had that freedom.
Okay. That's nice to have that kind of support.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it'd been a whole lot different if we'd have been 4 states away.
Right.
But when you're that close, 60 miles from home, how lucky can you be?
That's a rare benefit there.
Yeah, that's a rare assignment.
Yes. So you get ready to go, and you're going to be away from home, and in a new culture for those
Yes.
90 days.
Yes.
So how did that transition go for you?
It was okay for the first, few days. We stayed pretty close to the base. We had all the facilities. You had the BX, the cafeteria, the NCO club. We were on the Gulf, so we had a beach. So some cases, it was almost like a vacation because we worked 12-hour shifts, but we worked 2 12-hour days. We'd have 24 hours off. We'd work 2 12-hour nights. We'd have 48 hours off. So we had a lot of free time. Of course, I could tell you the name of the little town outside the base, but that was nothing but bars and girls. But being married, that wasn't for me. But another crew chief and I did manage to get to Bangkok one time when we had the 48 hours off, and that was very nice. We were able to get a taxi, and we had him for the 2 days that we were there. Cost us a fifth of whiskey and a carton of Winston cigarettes
For 2 days of
for 2 days of
chauffeuring you around?
Yeah.
That's
He
good.
showed us all the temples, the different sites to see in Bangkok. He took us to what they called the snake farm. They had crocodiles and all kind of snakes and so forth, which is interesting. Something you don't see here really.
It's part of what they eat. Is that why they were having a snake farm?
No, I think it was more of a zoo type situation than anything else.
Okay.
But it was nice to have somebody who lived there to show you around, so you got to see some things that you probably wouldn't have seen on your own.
Right. Right. For him to do it for the cigarettes and the whiskey, was it hard to get there? Is that why he was willing to do it for that?
Well,
Exchange?
probably because he resold it and made a ton of money.
Oh, okay.
That type of thing happens almost any place you go when you're in a poorer society, which I'm sure some of them struggled.
Yeah. Did you try the food?
I'm not too much on real spicy food, and the Thai food in some cases was a little too spicy for my taste.
So you gave it a little bit of a try, but not.
Gave it a try, but
not too
wasn't
much.
overly fond of it. But when I came back home, I didn't eat rice for quite some time because even when you went to the chow hall, instead of potatoes, it was always rice.
So you got your fill in those
Oh
90
yeah,
days.
yeah, that's for sure.
Okay, so you had shared some photos, and in the photos you showed, or it showed a picture of the lodging where you were staying.
Yes,
Would you like to explain that?
it was what they called a hooch. There were 6 bunks. None of them were stacked. They were all on the floor. So there were 3 on each side of the hooch. So it was a ground crew from one aircraft living with a ground crew from another, and they were from a different base. I don't remember where they were from, but we got to know each other pretty well with living right next to one another in the same building, basically. We had our own, I guess you'd call her a maid. She made our beds, kept the place clean, did our laundry. We had a refrigerator in the building or in the hooch, and she kept soda in it all the time with a little cup. So on your honor system, if you drank it, you paid for it. I don't know, 5 or 10 cents a bottle. And we paid her, I think we paid her $5 a week. But that was a lot of service for that little bit of money.
Pretty good setup there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's nice when you're away from home to feel taken care of.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know what we would have done if we had to do our own laundry. I'm not even sure that there were facilities. I'm sure there were, for the people that were stationed there permanently, but for us transient people, I don't know. Didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's nice. That was nice. You didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Can you think of any memories that really stand out from your time in Thailand?
Well, yeah. Of course, it was the tankers and B-52s that were actually stationed there, and they had a mishap one day. We were all up at the BX, and we heard a loud explosion, and you saw a big black cloud. But the B-52 had gotten too far along taking off, and I don't know what the problem was, if they had an engine problem or whatever, but they were at the point of no return. They actually crashed at the end of the runway. Everybody got out.
Okay, they were able to.
There were no fatalities, but the plane was a total loss.
They were very fortunate they were able to
Absolutely. Get out. There were stories. The on that particular model of the B-52, the tail gunner was actually in the tail of the airplane. I don't know how he got out, but he got out. They said when they caught up with him, he was still running.
I bet.
But yeah, it had to be scary.
And it would have, since the plane didn't even take off. Is that correct?
Right.
It was going to take off.
Yeah. They apparently tried to stop it, but they were too far. Speed was too high, and they were too short on runway, so they actually went off the end of the runway and into the field or whatever was at the end.
I don't know how they got out so fast. That's a miracle.
Training.
Yeah.
That's what it all comes down to.
Yeah.
Same thing with us with the KC-135. I mean, we went through training every year for escape routes, how to get out, what to do when you got out. They actually took us up to the pool at the NCO club, and they'd have a raft out in the middle of the pool. You jumped off the high dive with your life vest on and swam over and got into the raft. There was always training of one kind or another all during my career.
That's good.
Yes, it is.
So you always felt like prepared for what might come.
Oh yeah. I had no doubts that I was safe.
That's really good. So time came for you to leave Thailand,
right.
And you came back to Columbus?
To Columbus, to Lockbourne. And right about that time, I don't know whether they were trying to trim the forces back or whatever, but they were offering a 2-month early out. So instead of waiting until the end of March, I got out the very end of January 1970. I think my wife had had enough, and I think she's a little homesick. So we decided to go ahead and get out. But we've talked about it since. I was discharged on the 29th of January. On the 1st of February, my line number came up for Staff Sergeant, E5. We've talked about it a number of times. If I would have known that, I don't know if I would have got out.
It's a tough decision to make.
It is. I'd been time and grade as an E4. It was almost 2 years. So, and I'd seen people who had been at the base 6 months before me were getting promotion. Some of them stayed, some of them got out and missed it. But we'd have had to have some real serious consideration if I'd have known I was going to be a staff sergeant. That would have changed things a whole lot. Of course, your re-up bonus was unbelievable at that time. We were talking about $6,500. In 1970, that's a lot of money. Now, you didn't get it all at one time. You got some the first when you re-enlisted, and then anniversaries after that, but still.
And at the time, that wasn't enough incentive for you to stay?
No, I mean, it would have been if I'd have known I was getting promotion. Maybe I was just a little discouraged since I didn't get one yet. So, but
Hindsight, right?
2020,
That's
2020.
how it goes. So when you got out of the Air Force, did you return to Dayton?
Yes, we got a half a duplex, and I went to work for a friend of the family in his service station, and I worked there for about a year, and went to another service station to another gentleman that I knew. Then from there, I went to an automotive warehouse, same company I'd worked for before I went in the service, made auto parts, same company my dad worked for. But I worked in their warehouse. And from there, I went to Springfield to an American Motors dealership. My dad was parts manager and he needed some help. So I went up and worked for him. And I've been doing the same thing ever since until I retired in, when did I retire? 2008.
During those years, did you miss working on the planes?
Yeah, I think I miss the camaraderie. Uh, I mean, you got to depend on your fellow airmen, and we had a lot of fun together. We worked hard, but we had a lot of fun. That part of it I missed, and the travel. I'm sure that if I would have stayed in, I wouldn't have stayed at Lockbourne forever. We'd have gone someplace else. So,
Yeah, the military experience is very unique.
yes, and it's changed a lot since I was in. It seemed like when you get stationed at one place and you stay there for 4 or 5 years instead of just for a year or two, you weren't constantly on the move. So, I don't know what it would have been like. I'm sorry we didn't try it.
Advantages to both sides, though. I
Absolutely.
imagine the kids not having to move constantly
Right.
and being away from family and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure my parents and her parents would have been upset if we'd have been very far away with the grandkids coming along.
Yeah, I'm sure they were happy to have you close on.
Oh yeah, yeah. Family means a lot.
Yeah. So, so you ended up in Fairborn when your kids were growing up?
No, we first started out in Dayton, and then we had a chance to buy a house in Xenia, brand new house, and with two children and the thought of another one coming down the line sooner or later, we decided we'd like to have a house. So we moved to Xenia, and we stayed there for 25 years. And then after the kids were gone and it was just the wife and I, and we decided we wanted to downsize a little bit, so we moved to Dayton.
Okay.
And we've been there now for, let's see, in May it'll be 22 years. We keep track of that by how old our oldest granddaughter is.
Are they local? Are your grandchildren local?
The two older ones live in Columbus. The one just graduated from Miami University, trying to decide what she wants to do now. She wants to go to law school, but she's going to have to save a little money. Dad told her that he paid for 4 years of college. He's not paying for law school. And then the second granddaughter is a freshman at Ohio University. And the third grandchild lives in Bellbrook. She's a senior at Bellbrook High School. She'll graduate this May. She's going on to college. She's going to go to Sinclair. And the youngest one finally got a boy. Tyler is 12 years old in the 6th grade. And he's He's a big sports nut. He's like his dad. He played football this year, plays basketball, and he'll play baseball this spring and summer.
Okay.
And it's nice to have them close. I mean,
Yeah.
Columbus isn't that far to go, so we see a lot of them.
And the youngest and the only boy, so I imagine he enjoys that attention.
He's a little spoiled.
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
Good. So your kids have grown up and done well, and their children are doing well.
Everyone's, the two boys both have a college degree. My oldest son has his MBA, and he is a CPA. He's comptroller for a firm in Columbus. Christine, she has an associate's degree in travel and tourism, which never worked out. She's a assistant manager for a Kohl's department store in Springfield. And my youngest son works for a company called L Brand, and he is a project manager for all of their new stores and any of the remodeling that they do. So they're all
Okay.
doing very well.
Yeah. Sounds like your daughter might have actually enjoyed being a military brat then, since she was interested in traveling.
Well, I don't know. We were already out of the service by the
Right,
time she
right.
came along, but yeah, I mean, I think maybe she thought it would be a glamorous career, but it's tough.
It is tough.
Tough. You got to have a following, or you're not going to make any money.
Yeah, it is tough. But it sounds like they all found their place in life, and that's
Yes.
good.
Yes, we've been very fortunate. We have a good family. We all pretty well get along. There's no in-law outlaw type thing. I mean, the two daughter-in-laws are very very good. They're great wives and mothers. And my son-in-law, he's a hard worker and can't complain.
It's good stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So no interest in joining the military at this point with the grandkids, or have they talked about it?
Grandkids, no. My three children, of course, Christine had no interest whatsoever. The youngest son, being in college and so forth, he didn't have any desire. My oldest was in the Marines for 4 years.
Oh, okay, very good.
He was in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. He was there for the whole thing, start to finish. And he doesn't talk about it either,
Okay.
which, I guess I kind of understand. I mean, one of my wife's brothers was in the Marines, and he was in Vietnam. He didn't talk about it either. So I guess when you're in combat, it's a whole lot different situation than like I was in.
For sure. For sure. But he's doing well now, so
Everybody's doing fine.
that's
He's
great.
52 years old and runs in marathons.
Wow.
He ran the Marine Corps marathon a couple of years ago. He's even been in the Boston Marathon and finished.
Wow.
No record-setting times or anything, but he finished.
And he did it. Wow.
Yeah, at his age too.
Wow. Do you participate in any veteran groups now? Or have you since you served the local, VFW or anything like that?
Never had much of an interest, and I was never really approached by it. So no, I'm not. I guess I need to find out a little bit more about maybe what kind of benefits I do have if and when it would become necessary. So
Do you use veteran benefits at the VA or anything like that? Or
nothing at the present time, and I've been very very lucky. I mean, through my work and my wife's work and so forth, I've always had very good medical coverage and so forth. So we've always taken advantage of that.
That's good. Yeah. What have you been doing in your retirement years then to enjoy life?
Working. I don't have any hobbies, and you can only read so much. And during the winter months and so forth, you're pretty well cabin fevered. So a gentleman who worked for me when I was at at this dealership in Fairborn, he asked me to come back and work part-time. So I've been doing that. I work 25, 26 hours a week, pretty well come and go as I please. It's not strenuous, but it keeps my mind sharp and gives me reason to get up in the morning.
That sounds like a really good setup.
And it works for me.
Good. And then the other time you spend with family and
family.
Sounds great.
We're my wife and I are both sports fans. We have season tickets to the UD women's basketball. We have some season tickets to the Dragons. We enjoy the sports. We like to travel whenever we can. Last several years, it's been traveling with her family, her brothers and sisters. She's from a family of 8, and several years now, all 8 of them and their spouses and so forth have vacationed together. We've been to the Outer Banks, South Carolina. Matter of fact, we're going back to South Carolina this September. There'll be 13 of us.
Oh, that's wonderful.
All in one house.
Oh, so do you rent like a real big house?
Oh, yeah.
And go in together rather than hotel rooms. That's nice to have your own place.
Yeah, I mean, we basically eat out once as a group one evening. Other than that, somebody cooks every night. Somebody will get up and fix breakfast, and it's amazing. By the time we get to the end of the week, we're all still talking to one another.
That sounds really nice.
It is. It's fun. It's a chance to get away. We all like the ocean and the beach. Of course, it's you wade in the ocean and you swim in the pool.
Yeah. Now, when you went to the Outer Banks, it's because we've been there as well. They like to take credit for the Wright brothers.
Yes.
But being from Dayton, we like to take credit for the Wright brothers.
It's amazing. The first year we went to the Outer Banks, of course, we were real close to Kitty Hawk, so we went to the memorial that they have there. But I've never been to the one here in Dayton, which is I don't understand. But it was very nice. North Carolina would like to take credit for first flight.
Right.
Well, yeah, it happened there, but it wasn't their people. It wasn't their native people. It was somebody from Dayton.
Or creation. It was created here downtown. Yeah. So you've not been to the Wright Brothers Museum here in Dayton?
No.
Oh, you'll have to go. It's so beautiful. It's small and it's just really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
And the Air Force Museum, it's been years since I've been there, but I'd have to take a whole weekend because I'd want to go now where I can take my time and I don't have to take the kids, as the kids are always in a hurry to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that last new addition at the Air Force Museum is so neat. Sometime when you make it, it's really neat.
Oh, I just have to take a Saturday and go.
Yeah. And snow days are the best because there's hardly anybody there.
Yeah.
But they're still open.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Air Force never shuts down.
Nope. The museum doesn't either. Well, great. Do you have any other memories or things that you'd like to have recorded here?
Nothing that really stands out. I mean, it was an enjoyable time. I learned a lot. I made a lot of friends. It's sad that, you lose touch after so many years, but it was an experience that I don't regret.
What advice would you have for future generations?
If you don't have a specific goal, if you don't have a reason or a profession picked out why you're going to go to college, if you're not going to go to college, the service is not a bad idea. There's so many more opportunities today with the service, and it's not all combat. The technology has changed, so you go into the service, and I mean, it's not a bad life. The pay today is livable. So you can afford to raise a family, to start a family, and you might find yourself a career. It's not a bad way to go. I wouldn't discourage anybody who would want to do it.
Very good. That concludes our interview with Bill Duffy. Thank you for your time and thank you for your military service.
Thank you very much for having me.